Hello world, it's Angelot. I'm here getting ready for my HTML5 DevConf talk. And basically what I'm planning to do for the talk is a live coding performance of how I prototype a D3.js visualization using Tributary and using some real data. And yeah, so let's see what that is. Basically what I did is set up this Google form with some kind of heavy questions. We'll see how the audience responds. I'm going to ask them to fill out this form. Let's look at the live form. Before the talk starts, there's like 10-15 minutes. I can pass an iPad around, ask people to do it on their mobile, and all the responses go into a spreadsheet. So I'll show you that in a second. Let's go over the questions real quick. So how many people have you loved in your life? How many people that you've loved have died? How many weddings have you attended? How many funerals have you attended? Are you in a relationship? Are you married? And how old are you? So these are all almost all questions that you can answer with a number, which means that we can pretty easily visualize these numbers against each other and take a look at how the room is laid out. And yeah, hopefully when we see it all together, people will see that they're not alone in some of these number ranges, or that who knows. Let's see. So the way the data looks is you can see in the responses here, and basically we get this spreadsheet with each of our questions and a timestamp. And what's cool in Google Spreadsheets is you can publish this to the web, grab this link. I think you have to choose this the first time before this shows up. Take this link, change the output to CSV. Now you can just download this. It'll download right in your browser. Or you could also use d3.csv to put this link into it, and D3 just grab the CSV file and you can go from there, which is cool because then you get live updating. Like if your form is still collecting data, your visualization will update. For the purpose of this talk and this video, I'm just gonna copy paste the data and put it into Tributary. Start with a clean slate. We'll just call this form.csv. Paste the CSV in. Now we'll be able to see. A second here, it's bigger. Tributary.form is this an array of objects, and each of these are questions from the CSV. Now the heading of the CSV was the questions, so we get these awful variable names that you would not want to access in your code at all. So I'm going to clean this up a little bit. And this is something that it's not that fun. It's not very sexy, but it's gotta happen. Every project, even if you get a nice spreadsheet like this where the data is mostly good, you're gonna have to clean up something. And let's see, I think it's love-based relationship. How old? Yeah. Are you married? How old are you? Age. And then we'll take the questions, and we're gonna comment that out real quick. Make an array here. So we're gonna use the questions to label our stuff later. Just turn these all into strings. And a question mark. Just a little bit of prerequisite work, and we'll be visualizing shortly. So let's have a little music. Alright, so we got our questions. Now let's just look at the first element of this array. Take a look at this. We have our nicely labeled variables here, but they're all strings. So in order to visualize this properly, we need numbers. So what I'm going to do is go over this array, map over this array. So that means for each element of the array, I'm going to create a new element, which will turn into another array. So I'm going to console log answers now, just or the first element is just an empty array. If I do age p.age, I just get back the age here, 27. What I want is a number there. So I'll do that for each of these, and you see that, you know, I'm getting love, death, weddings, funerals, and we can get the relationship, but that's not really a number, right? That's a yes or no question. So, and you know, people wrote yes or no is what I asked them to do. And let's see. So for that, one thing we have to keep in mind is that some people capitalized it, some people didn't. And you know, yes or no is one thing. There's a couple ones here, which I'm assuming yes. What we really want is to be able to program with this stuff. So let's turn it into booleans. So we're going to do 2 lowercase yes. So that means that if it's yes, it's true. You know, no matter how they capitalize it. And if it's no, you know, it'll be false. And now we will see that this guy's true. Alright, so we have our answers array. So we have an array here now of objects which we can visualize. So I like to start with, you know, the simplest visualization I can, which is just a bar chart. I'm going to select the SVG object on the page that's presented to us by Tributary. Provided. I'm going to make a group element to hold my bar chart because I always like having this kind of like a layer. You might want to move that chart around later, and you don't want to move all your bars individually. It's just good practice. So I want to create a bunch of rectangles that are classed bar. I want to bind the answer data to them. Since they don't exist yet, I need to enter and append them. Then I need to set the bar class, and then this is where the actual visualization comes in. We're going to set attributes of this of each rect. I'm just going to set them to constants. We see a little box show up there. What we really want to do is space them out. Like have bars in the x direction, and then we want the height of the bar to represent our data. So to space it out, I'm going to go ahead and create an x scale and use this nice ordinal scale from V3, which will basically create equally spaced intervals for me based on the number of things I give it. So I use answers, and it will automatically calculate the spacing based on the width I give it, or like the range I give it here. And so if I do let's space those. Let's see. Oh, I'm sorry, I want to do range bands. That would be this. And then the width should be x scale, that range band, so a single band. And this parameter controls the spacing between the bars. And so it's all nice, and you can just change these numbers and get a bigger chart, a smaller chart. It's all calculated for you. I'm also going to pull out this number here so that we can use it later from here. Let's make the height of the chart 100 first. So like our max bar will be 100. So to do that, we need a 1 y scale. This will be a linear scale. And here, then it will go from 0, so like the smallest answer someone can give is 0, and the biggest would be max. So then you calculate that. So there's a max function. But what are we graphing? Max of what? Let's choose one of these dimensions. Like, let's start with age. And so now we know that the max age here, and we'll set this to from the chart height. And now we can scale the height of our items, of our bars, according to the age. Now we have an upside down bar chart, which is kind of cool, right? But let's turn into a real bar chart. We want to basically subtract from the height there we go. Now that writes it up. Alright, so we got one little bar chart. That's cool. The age, but really we want to see all our data, right? So what I'd like to do is just see all of it at once. Let's do some small multiples here. The way I'm going to do that is I'm going to say I want to draw, a chart for each dimension. I'm going to take advantage of some of D3's power here and just make it data driven. So the data I'm going to use is which dimensions I want to use. So I'm going to do age, love, death, weddings, funerals. I'm going to leave out the other two, the relationship and married, for now, because they're not linear scale, right? They're booleans, they're true or false. Doesn't make quite as much sense in this context. We'll get to them, but let's just do a simple, number-based one, or all the number-based ones. So what I can do here is I'm going to define, similar to the way I made these bars, I'm going to select all group elements class chart, which I will bind the dims data. Those don't exist, so I'm going to append a group element and class chart for each of them. And now what I can do is charts.each, and I can call this bar function that I'll define. So basically what I want to do is I want to turn creating of these bars into a function that I can make for each chart. And this is actually really easy. We're just going to say property and I. So that's the property will come from the dim that we bound, and the I be the index. So we'll have n charts, and instead of instead of using one group for these charts, I'm going to select this, which is in the context of this function, the group element for each chart. But I want to, this is actually drawing the age bar chart for each of these charts for each dimension. Let's transform them. So, wait a minute. Yeah, we just do I times chart height. Let's see. Of course, this needs to be transposed. So now we have all our charts here, and we can actually space them out a little bit. This space variable y space them out a little bit, and we can space them more or less, make the charts a little bit smaller, and then if we'll fit in our screen, we have a couple more charts come in here. And okay, that's great. We got 5 age bar charts, but that's not really what we want. What we want is to make that based on the property. And there we go. That's it. Okay, cool. So now we have all our charts. Let me go ahead and save this. It's always good to save when you got something on the screen. Now we have our charts. For the numerical ones is cool, but if we were to just load this link, we wouldn't be able to tell anything about this really. Like what are these bars talking about? What are the numbers? We don't know anything about it. So one of the first things I want to do, even as I'm developing this, I might be confused. Did I put love first or age or death? I want to compare these numbers, so we should label them. So I'm going to make some labels here for the questions. I'm just going to make some text elements, class question. I'm going to find the questions array that we made in the beginning to this, so that we can see them. So we set the text just to the bigger. Now we get all our text up here. We have to position it too. And we'll do that sort of similar to the way that we space these bars out, but we're gonna move them to the right of the chart, so we're gonna use the chart width there. And I'm just gonna take this and then translate. There we go. We space them all out. Let's center them there. Let's make this like label Y offset here. We can play with that. But if you'll notice, that says timestamp, and this is age. And we laid them out in this order, so we got to fix up these questions here. So we have love. What we want is age was the first one that we did. Let's see how many people you loved, how many people you had death after you did love. So now we have these questions, and then we can comment these out for a second because oh, look at that. This one. Comment these out. So we're not doing them yet. Move this console to the side here. Alright. So now we got some labels. That's cool. We can see which questions we're graphing, right? What we really want to see is the numbers. Because it's good to see like the relative distribution, but now we see that, oh, look at these two, they're pretty high up there compared to everyone else, but how high are they? Like, we don't know what those numbers are. What about this person? This person is a bit older than everyone else. This person's attended a ton of funerals. How many? One way you could do that, is add a lot of labels. What I like to do is take advantage of how easy it is to add interactivity in a D3 visualization. Take advantage of the mouse, let people explore when we ask those questions. So what I'm going to do is whenever I hover over a bar, I want to place a number here above the question, which will answer it for that bar. So let's go ahead and set up that number. I'll just copy this code real quick. Call it answer. Did not class answer. Class question. Good measure. And instead of questions, let's do dims. And here, well, we can see minus 20, yeah, so we can see the dims there. And what we really want there, though, is numbers, and then we're going to replace those numbers when we move stuff over stuff. So what we can do is we can just do bars.on mouse over, and we can pass this update labels function, which we'll define now. And that will take DI, so the datum for that bar. And we can just select all the answers again, and then just redefine their text function to be the dimension, and we'll just return D of dim. So now when we mouse over, we see this older person is 56. We have 48 people this person loved, 57 people this person loved in their life. So yeah, now we can explore, which is cool. It's nice to be able to figure data. This person's gone to 42 funerals. That's that 56-year-old. Makes some sense. That's a lot of funerals. But yeah, so we can do this. We can explore, but you notice though that it's kind of hard to like get this person, or it's impossible to hover over them to see the people that have 0 deaths. And what we need is a way to always be hovering over people, and also to connect each person, because it's kind of I can see this person, but it's hard to tell, is it this one or this one, right? That like which bars are matching which. So what I want to do is make some background rectangles. Let's do that near the top. We want to do it before we draw the chart, so that they're underneath the actual rectangles. So I'll make some with that BG. I'm going to bind the answer data again. Set the class, and set so the X is going to be the same. Space it according to X scale. The Y will just start at the top. The width will be X scale dot range point. And the height here, this we want to do basically for the number of dimensions times the height of the chart. So, let's see. I'm just going to put this data on here. I'm not seeing my PGX here. Let's see. Charts. On the rectangles. Oh, this is why. There you go. So I have to chain the enter and append. Let's make them pass that. We'll add 1 to that. So you add 2 to that. Oh yeah, this should be plus 1 space. So maybe I need that one. Alright, so but now we have these bars, and if we were to do bg.on, click, and then update labels, we would have nice, or not click, sorry, I'll say it again. Yeah, now we always hover, but we can't see anything. Luckily, we can use the power of CSS and style our background recs. So we can give them the fill, like white, fill with opacity, maybe and now they're not as bright. But still, I'd like, let me just go ahead and style the bars a little bit. Don't want them to be white, but play with them, maybe some navy or something. What we want to do though is, now we can highlight, but we can't really see which bar we're talking about. So let's highlight them. And we can do that with a quick trick here. If we just select all the rectangles on the page, we're going to filter out the one that is equal to the one being updated, and we're going to class it highlighted, let's say. And let's say, what's the highlighted class going to do? We'll give it a stroke, or the red stroke, right? So now we're highlighting, but we're not removing the highlight, so that would be a nice thing to do. Before we do this, we can just select all the rects again and turn off the highlighted. Now there may be more efficient ways to do this, but this will work now for illustration purposes. Instead of making the stroke so it's crazy red, let's play with the fill opacity here, and let's turn this fill opacity down to 0.5. So 30, like that. So now we can see a nice highlight of which person we're talking about whenever we're exploring. So we look at this older person here, and we see some of their values down below. Or if you're looking at this person who's loved a lot, so all right, we have some interaction, we have a little bit of styling, and we have our data here. It'd be nice to show that other binary data. That's here, the relationship and married aspect. Now, what we can do is we can add them in as dimensions. So if I add that, it'll make another bar chart. Here too, another bar chart. That's uncommon for questions. So now you see the true false. And what's happening here is that true and false in JavaScript can be represented as 0 and 1. So true values have a height of or a value of 1, and so their bar is full, and the ones that are false are 0. But instead, let's represent them as like little circles or something. So I'm going to do an if statement here. If the prop is relationship, or the prop is married, I'm going to add this quotation. Alright, so if that's the case, I want to change this stuff. I want to just change the way it looks. The X is still fine. The Y will be, we'll change that. The height, what I want to do is make little circles. So I'm just gonna set like a little height here, let's say like 10 or so. We'll make the height static, so it's 10. The Y should just be chart height minus the height, so that it's aligned at the bottom here, like everything else. Width and X is fine. I'm gonna make rounded corners. If you set the width and height, or the rounded, so that you get little ovals here. Maybe make the circles a little smaller. Make an actual circles and like this. Or we could actually just make this X range. a square or a circle. Alright, but now we have all these dots on because they're all being drawn now. So we need to use the true false property of our data. So what I'm going to do is we're using the opacity of the things to highlight. So let's change the fill, and we'll start with this base on here. So basically, if it's true, we want to fill the circle the same color as a bar. So the prop, make it a string. And if not, let's just fill it with white. So now we get white dots. You can barely see them, but it's like they're false. And otherwise, the blue dots look the same. That's cool. We got all our data in there now. That's nice. One thing that'd be really great to do is to sort our data based on a different dimension, so we can see patterns there, right? Like you can sort by age, or sort by number of people you love. See how the other things break down. It's not too hard to do with JavaScript. Just kind of jump to the top here, and we'll sort our answers array by a certain property, right? So let's do answers.sort and give it a function of a and b, a comparative function. And I think if you do a, and we choose, let's say, age minus b, age, it sorts by age, right? But what I'd like to do is be able to do this interactively. I want to see all of these different ones, and clicking in here and doing like love, and then love, and now we have love. It's a lot of work. I want people to be able to explore this data set, so I want them to be able to sort, by doing something. And I think what it will do is click on the text here to be able to change the sorting. So that means that basically on all of the questions, we'll do on click, and we will take this sort code here. We'll just resort the answers array, and we'll make the property be dims I. So since the questions are in order and the dims are in order, we can get that property, set it here, and now what we need to do is redraw it once we've sorted it. So I'm going to make a render function that will redraw things, and all that's going to do is this. It's just going to we'll call it the first time. So every time we click on these, it's just going to re-render the charts, which are using the enter update pattern. So they'll be able to redraw themselves without wasting any elements, without polluting the DOM or anything like that. But you might notice now, as I go over this unsorted dimension, the highlight bar in the background is jumping all over the place. That's because I need to re-render that, or just rebind the array and update its X position. All the other stuff isn't really affected. So now, if I highlight over things, behaves as expected. One thing we'll also notice is that these, how many people you've loved have died, is a question that's sort of a subset of this question, right? The qualifier loved implies that you count out how many people you love your whole life, dead or alive, and then out of that you have the number of people that died. So we should be scaling this value to this one, and we can do that pretty quickly here. We're going to define max once up here. We're going to say if the property is death, then we're going to copy this, So this is the default case is any other property, but if it's depth, we want to scale it to love. And so now that makes more sense, right? Like 6 people here is the same size as 6 people here. I think it's 5. Yeah. So you can kind of see that. Okay, now it's not like before when you had bars up here, look like the whole time people died, and that's not the case. So yeah, like that. All right. Yeah, this is the visualization I want to get to. Let me save this for the talk. I feel like it takes us through, you know, getting the data, processing it a little bit, you know, getting something on the screen, kind of exploring, then deciding that you want to provide more interactivity, add more, you know, a little style with CSS, and we touch on the various HTML5 tools that we're using here, APIs, and several of the D3 functions, you know, scaling, the events, our DOM event, you know, handling stuff, enter, update, selection. I mean, it's a lot to go through, but I hope it opens some people's eyes to the power of D3 and, you know, just how fast you can make something with it. All right, so hope you enjoy it. Peace.